Alright guys, so I'm here with another pitch grip tips video. This time we are going to be looking at the two-seam fastball. Since we talked about the four-seam last time, I figured this was a easy kind of next video. So this is actually the pitch that I most utilized during my time playing as far as fastballs go, especially once I kind of got to the pro level. Especially as a sidearmer, everything became about movement, and the two-seam was where it's at. So there's pretty much, the two-seam fastball, you're going to be going along these seams. That's pretty much where you're coming from. So me personally, I like to keep it tight. So I'm actually keeping my fingers on the inside of the seams. Now I know some guys I've seen two different, I don't even know if I really want to call it different, but two types, places to kind of grip it. So I personally always liked it right about here. My fingers about middle on the logo, and then I would always grip this seam. Some guys kind of preferred it that way. They would get probably maybe a little bit wider to be able to touch the seams, and they just kind of like that. Me personally, I always felt the most comfortable right here. So right there, as far as my fingers go, gripping right here. Same thing as with the fastball. I don't have a tight grip. I'm not choking the ball to throw it. And then, yeah, I have it just on kind of this seam, and then I would just let it rip. Now, with the two seam, that makes it different in like the actual, what makes it different from a four seam from a two seam, because naturally throwing it this way, just because of the way the seams will fly through the air, you'll get a different spin, you'll get a different type of movement naturally throwing a two seam to a four seam. I know some people kind of have this idea that it's slower. It can be. Usually it is, just because instead of just being a straight ball and having so much grip just ripping down on it, you will maybe have 1 to 2, maybe even 3 miles an hour difference on average. But for me, the main reason why I used two seam was because of movement. So, and this is kind of how you get the movement. Now, one, yes, holding it from here makes a big difference, but what makes the most difference is the finger pressure. So when you go to grip your two seam, you have it here, and then all your pressure is going to be here on your index finger. And what that's going to do is, by ripping down here, that's going to create that arm side movement. Now, as far your slot kind of determines what type of movement and kind of how your release is. You'll either get, like for me, for the most, like if I threw it normal, just like this, no real pressure, maybe a little bit, I got a lot of just arm side movement. Versus if I really put a lot of pressure on, maybe like kind of really like turned here, that's where you get a lot more of the sinker type of action. Yeah, so that's kind of where I usually did it. And then, yeah, it'll always go arm side when you use your index finger. So, that's, we'll talk about the cutter on a different video, but it's kind of pretty much the same as just other finger. But I want to talk more about the specifics of the cutter when we get there. So right now we'll just focus on the two seam. But yeah, it's really, and to be honest, it's really that simple in regards to the two seam versus the four seam. Is that, the four seam, you're obviously going to be using all four seams and you're just pulling straight down. With the two seam, your whole goal is finger pressure. Like sometimes if I really wanted to feel for it, when I went to grip the ball, I would grip it here with only that, and then just gently lay that down, just so that way I had a good feel for that finger pressure. And even like as I was gripping, like you can even kind of see it now, how given it might just be shadow, but you can kind of tell that my index finger is a lot darker. Like you can tell there's more blood going to it. There's more pressure versus, I'm not really using this at all. So that's kind of how I throw it. It's my favorite pitch as far as the ability to run in on guys' hands and be able to break bats. That's usually kind of what I ended up doing with that. So yeah, that's the two seam. It's really simple, in all honesty. Sometimes you get the guys who kind of split their fingers, kind of same thing as with the four seam, who want a little bit more control, and they'll maybe try to get almost more of a change-up type of pull down on it. I don't personally like that. I still want to keep my two seam fastball as hard as my four seam. Like, there shouldn't be much of a difference. The only difference is literally just the fact that the air differentials in how you throw it. So yeah, that is the two seam fastball. If, like I said, like usual, if you have any questions, feel free to message me, leave a comment. But yeah, if not, be sure to like that video, subscribe, and yeah, follow me on Twitter at BP Ballistics, on Instagram at Bullpen Ballistics, all one word. And yeah, that about does it. That's the two seam fastball. Thank you guys for watching.